You know, sometimes we got to do like the Nike commercial told us, and that's to just do it, you know? Just get your students involved in trying hands-on activities. As you say, all good hands come to the front deck of the ship. Let's try some hands-on activities in our class. You just kind of got to roll the dice and see where it's going to go, right? Just throw those dice out there somewhere and try it. Just do it. That's what we're going to try here today with this session on hands-on experiential learning on the internet with online instruction, blended learning, however you're teaching your classes, right? Just do it. Try it, Mikey. You might like it. You know, I'm dating myself here, right? But really, it's not just about trying. It's about reflecting on what you did try, internalizing the skills that you learned along the way, appropriating the content, strategies, and so forth that make most sense for you, and focusing on those misconceptions that students have, their bugs or buggy algorithms in their thinking. They might get into a scenario, a case, a virtual world, a survey, a movie they produce, a game they are entertained with, a portal creation. Do something. Try things out in a lab, a virtual lab, in chemistry, in physics, in biology. There are so many ways in which to get your students engaged in the content by going to that stage of implementation, of doing something, whether it's a debate or role play or mock trial, whether they're trying their singing lessons out in their voice recordings in a podcast, or their counseling skills out in a video recording, or their language learning out in a Skype interaction with a native speaker of that language, or their archaeological and anthropological skills by digging in virtual sites. There's so many ways to get students today to get into a safe harbor for learning, where they attempt something out without being in the physical space where they might be harming someone, right? So, problem-solving skills, problem-finding skills, credibility of sources, evaluating claims, risk-taking, and then judging those risks. Consider all these skills you want to try to embed in your classes. Consider also the degree of authenticity and credibility of the simulations, the role plays, the debates, the games that students might engage in by just doing it. But also consider the power of that experience. Start with something hands-on or end with something hands-on. You have that choice. There are many examples we'll walk through here related to hands-on learning, hands-on doing, right? Simulations and interactivities could include doctor-patient ones. Lots of money in the medical field for patient-doctor relationship kinds of software. Counselor-client, teacher-student, coach-player, researcher and apprentice. There are many ways in which you can get your students today to collect data, to analyze data, to watch video, and so forth. You know, collecting real-world data is powerful. It gives people some sense of autonomy, some sense of personal say in what they're doing. They might use MicroPoll or Mr. Poll or SurveyMonkey or SurveyShare or some kind of tool out there. They might get involved in a physics, biology, or chemistry lab where they can practice their test questions before the physical or real test they have to take, so they get calm about it. They might practice their management and leadership skills in an online meeting, virtual meeting. They can practice decision making or interactions in an online wiki book where they collaboratively build something or produce a digital movie or a podcast show in a weekly or monthly episodes. You might use the virtual chemistry lab from Oxford or other universities around the world to have your students trying things out, or the COM system from Indiana University, computer assisted learning method, that puts up practice questions on the internet. Students might practice not only their chemistry, but their anatomy lessons, their physics lessons, and so forth with systems like COM. Again, leadership training, business decision making. The Intel leadership game is one that is free on the internet that you can practice out your skills in hiring and firing and creating action plans for computers in an organization. Simulations might include humanitarian missions, might include being in an intensive care unit in a hospital, might include a business scenario of some kind on a manufacturing floor, might have a virtual stock exchange or psychology experiments or Shakespeare in Second Life. My former field of accounting I'd have to wait for weeks or at least days for teachers to grade it. And today with the learning system from Canada, accounting courses and assignments are graded rather quickly. Of course, when I was an accountant,
well, what if there is no tomorrow? There wasn't one.
I did the same thing over and over and over again. Now maybe technology can create some variety, free people up from the drudgery of fields like accounting. Top business schools use online debates and forums and competitions like Tulane Freeman School of Business with energy trading online. I mentioned the Lyrics Interactive Financial Accounting System, but there's also hands-on learning and anatomy and autopsies. The University of Leicester in the UK have online autopsies. BizEd in the UK has online business cases. There's medical cases, law cases on the internet for students to try out their skills. They might even watch a video on YouTube wrapped around the text-based case. They might go into an ancient world in archaeology or in history, right? They might go into online psychology experiments and reenact them, or Shakespearean plays, right? There are many websites today for psych experiments, Gestalt experiments, for instance, perception labs and so forth, or going to Mayan ruins and getting involved in 3D worlds or digs in Africa, for instance, and looking at movements of people over time in timeline tools with archaeological digs, or going to Rome Reborn 1.0 and looking at coliseums and senate halls in Rome, or analyzing virtual crime scenes and figuring out who did it or didn't do it with the evidence that you're given. As I said, listening to podcasts of Shakespearean plays or actually getting involved in them in Second Life. There's degrees of authenticity here that can warm your students up to maybe a face-to-face class, maybe just-in-time teaching where you try something out online, you see what students were able to accomplish, and then in the physical classroom where they meet, you try to deal with their difficulties, their challenges, right? There are many guidelines here related to hands-on doing. You want to make sure you not only try things out, but you reflect on what worked and what didn't work. You maybe discuss those things with your students. You maybe have your students suggest to you what you can be using in your class. Have your students be the cool resource providers so that you can extend out the resources that you have for your particular class, right? You have additional hands-on resources from your students. But once you do that, you want to make sure they're guided into the tasks. They have goals, they have scaffolds, and they have reflections on what worked and what didn't work. Formative assessment, not just summative at the end. So you can change the assignment as you go. There are many simulations across fields, as I mentioned. Money exists out there for some areas, grants, for instance, right? And some of these simulations and games and role plays and virtual worlds exist on different levels of challenges. So find the challenges that are appropriate for your students. Find a simulation that they might engage in and showcase them different resolutions so that you can whack their thinking a little bit, get them to counterpoint maybe. Look at where their stumbling blocks are and the ease of control and navigation within any system you decide to use. When done, debrief. When done, talk about it. When done, maybe look at it and say, is there grant money out there I can apply for? Show me the money. Show me the money. Show me the money. And when you're done, yeah, try some of these hands-on activities out there in the real world. Get involved. Pump some iron, right? Exercise your risk muscle. But what will your class be doing in terms of hands-on learning? I hope you find some exciting things you can do no matter your field, in business, archaeology, chemistry, literature, whatever it is, there's stuff for you to use. Good luck and enjoy that experiential learning.